My name is Eleanor Ingersoll, and I'm the president of QVNA. I'm very happy to see you all in our second community meeting post-restrictions. Let's just put it that way. Tonight, we welcome Shinjoo Cho. She is chair of the Philadelphia Peace Plaza Committee. As we effort to bring neighbors back together in person, we intend to make our best efforts to tape and present these meetings, as we're doing tonight. Manny Alacron of Ballista Creative was key in bringing online our town hall with Commissioner Outlaw and District Attorney Krasner back in June. He's here tonight, and we look forward to making the recording available on our website as soon as possible. But before we get to that, we have some pertinent neighborhood business to mention to you. If you have not, please do sign in. It lets us demonstrate our outreach, demonstrate the participation, and have that ready for anybody who's curious to know about it. The QVNA board elections are in December, and that means there is one more community meeting in October to suffice eligibility for those of you looking to make that criteria. We have those information packets if you're interested in running for the board. Our executive director, Lucy Erdelak, has them back here. There's also a QR code you can scan if that's a little easier, and you don't have the paper to carry around. We have tentative plans in October to speak with our legislative contingent from the Assembly. We will present the candidates for the QVNA election and take self-nominations from the floor. We already have some candidates who have made their intentions known. I want to introduce you all to Christine Tersivia. So if you raise your hand, thank you. I'm not sure if they're here. We also have Greg Morton, who I don't know if is with us tonight. And I'm sure I'm not pronouncing this correctly, but Gabby Vasquez, who is actually part owner of Lightbox Cafe on 4th Street. He's also a resident of Queen Village. So again, we will have full presentations from our candidates in October, so I look forward to seeing you again. Our grant process, lastly, is open, and we invite any neighbors with plans to support the community to apply. They close at the end of the year. All that information is on our website. I just wanted to mention that Nextdoor is a great source for connecting neighbors. We can all agree on that. However, it does not take the place of interacting with your neighborhood association directly. You can do that by checking our website, sending an email, signing up to get the e-news that lets you know about this and many other important meetings, including zoning meetings. And you can also find out what's happening in your neighborhood with art projects, greening projects, etc. That is how we arrived at this evening. Many of you, after receiving door hangers, which I have bribed my son to bring me because I left them on my desk at home, and these door hangers were left on neighbors' doors around the proposed spot for the Peace Plaza, and people at 805 South Front Street, and many of those neighbors got in touch with QVNA. I was surprised and a little shocked at the door hangers, so I in turn contacted Shinjoo, and she was able to make herself available for this evening. It's important to have face-to-face dialogue so everyone understands the project, especially ahead of the Art Commission meeting on Monday morning at 9:30. As you will hear about these and see these plans tonight, Shinjoo has been a transparent and consistent partner since the idea was first formed back in 2017 when she began engaging with the neighborhood. She's been present for any and all community meetings, board meetings, through emails and phone calls. I'm happy that if you were not able to make any of the previous community meetings about this project, that you were able to make it tonight so your questions can be answered and your concerns addressed after you see the presentation from Shinjoo. Thank you so much, everybody.
Good evening. So nice to see you all here. I'm really encouraged and I'm really impressed by the participation of the neighborhood. I was telling Eleanor that I'm not sure that I was going to get a lot of people because there was no mention of free food or pizza, but it seems like I'm trumping pizza right now. So can everybody hear me? So yeah, I'm going to try to stand in front of you and be a little closer as much as possible. With all the gadgets, we kind of need the table space, but my hope was to be a little closer to you and not be the person behind the desk. So my name is Shinjoo Cho. I'm a Fishtown resident. Don't boo me, I've only been there 5 years. formerly of West Philadelphia, originally from Seoul, Korea. My family immigrated to Hawaii when I was a teenager. And yes, I left Hawaii for New Jersey and then left New Jersey for Pennsylvania. I'm a musician, and I've also served the city of Philadelphia for almost a decade, which the post I left in 2014. This is a city that I love and that I care deeply about. And I'm also the connection of Quinn Village is very significant to me. This is where I started meeting friends, coming to see so many shows and exhibits, and I continue to do that. So with that in mind, I, along with other members of the committee, of the Philly Peace Plaza Committee, we're really excited to continue our relationship and to grow with the Quinn Village neighborhood and the neighbors. So without further ado, I actually want to ask a quick question. Has anybody been to the general community meeting where we presented this case before? Okay. So it goes back to 2017 toward the end. So it's telling that it's impossible to get everybody through a handful of meetings and that we need to be here more often. So I would like to start by, is that light, could that be turned off, please? Aha. Yeah. Yes, with the help of the light. So, perfect. I'll do a quick, brief summary of the history that we're talking about before we go into telling you about the project. So this took place in World War II, and we're talking about over 200,000 girls and women from over 21 countries, from 3 continents. And this was a state-sponsored sexual slavery by the Imperial Japanese Army, not to be confused with the current government. They're called and now commonly known as comfort women, which is a euphemistic word for prostitutes in Japanese. In 1991, it took multiple decades for survivors to speak out. And the breaking moment was in August of 91, when Kim Hak-soon, a survivor of a sexual slavery survivor, gives her first public testimony. This is really big for society and a woman to speak up about the sexual violence that she has experienced, especially in a culture and a society where the aftermath of the colonization and the World War II and the Japanese occupation has not been openly discussed and actively reconciled and acknowledged. So this opened up the floodgate for other peace survivors to come through, and as you can see, there is documented number of people from all over Asia who have registered themselves as victims. And this is a difficult topic, and realizing that some of the artists were really inspired. So in 2011, two sculptors, Seok-young and Eun-sung Kim, who happen to be a wife and husband, they created a sculpture called Statue of Peace. And this is for the first time installed in public in Seoul, Korea. And since then, the replicas of the statues have been placed around the world. And there's 17 of them around the world, outside of Korea, including 6 in the United States. I should mention that there are other forms of statues and monuments that talk about this history that remember the victims. And the ones that I'm talking about just happen to be this specific statue by the artists. So what does the statue look like? So it's a bronze statue of a teenage girl sitting down with an empty chair next to her. And there are many points to this statue. You might notice that there's a little figure here. I'm not going to go into all the details of the artworks because in the interest of time, and hopefully we can talk about that more too, but there are many elements that show the conditions or the history that she has experienced. So there's a little bird propped up on her shoulder, and at the base, you see a mosaic of her shadow as an older woman. The survivors, as you can imagine, it's been almost 8 years, they are passing away. And many of them have departed without seeing acknowledgement, justice, and proper apology. So this artwork has many elements to it that tells the story of what a girl might have experienced at that time. And it's slightly smaller than life scale. And as the chair implies, this is piece of artwork that's meant to be shared for people to touch, for people to sit next to, and to actually join her and have a seat and think about things. So this really invites people for contemplative moments and to have a little rest. Below, you're going to see photos throughout the world. So we're seeing some in Korea, and this one in particular is in Glendale, California. This one in Annandale, Virginia. And there are a few more images of this. So how did we happen on Quinn Village? So I would like to start by saying that after giving you a little bit primer on the history, the project that we are talking about, the goal is this: to honor the victims and to offer a welcoming space for peace seekers. So with that in mind, we were looking for a site for some time. And for a city that is really loaded with history and public artwork, it wasn't always easy to find a site that was suitable for us, for our humble, small-scale art. And we did some tours. We did a lot of back and forth. And then our committee, we're calling ourselves Philadelphia Peace Plaza Committee, we identified 805 South Front Street as an ideal site. And we started talking to then Quinn Village, neighbors, and to QVNA. So that started off in December 2017 when we presented at the QVNA board meeting. And then January 18, a month later, we started posting up at the site to meet the neighbors, to let them know what we're thinking about. And we did some door-to-door visits, especially for the residents living right across the street, as they'll be impacted the most. And QVNA worked with us to send out an online feedback form so that they can make a space for the residents to get to know about the project and ask questions. And so in March, we then met the general membership of QVNA and the neighbors. So the picture that you're seeing on the right is at For Pete's Sake upstairs when we had the very first meeting. It looks like we're having a really wild party. It's just a really dark room because we're presenting. And in April, the QVNA board voted to not oppose the project. And in January 19, we then formally began the public art donation proposal application with the city of Philadelphia. And 3 months later, we hired 10 landscape architects to help us analyze, assess, and to come up with a concept design for the space. And in February 20, we came back to QVNA board, not knowing what was going to happen to the world. A month later, we thought we were going to sort of move this forward, and we were happy to show the concept design to the QVNA board. And then the pandemic hit in March, so everything sort of paused. And then in September, we got ourselves together again and resumed our contact with the city and QVNA again. And almost, that's 5 months later, we were finally able to go in front of the Philadelphia Art Commission, which then unanimously gave us conceptual approval. And they quite agreed with the neighbors who have been saying that it would be an honor for the Quinn Village to have a historically significant artwork in their midst, and that this would be a beautiful addition to the neighborhood. Our commission did have some feedbacks, which I will come back to. And then May of last year, then we began actively programming some free activities at the site, which I'm also happy to go into details a little bit later. And then now, earlier this year in February, ever since we have gone in front of the Art Commission for a public hearing, a lot of interest started coming in. And that's when the city and everybody thought, this would be beneficial for the public at large beyond Quinn Village to get to hear about this project, make sure that we're giving the right information, answer questions. So we were invited by the city to present at the virtual town hall. So that was jointly done by 3 agencies of the city of Philadelphia, which I'll get into a little bit later. And that was February of this year. And today I'm here to meet all of you again. And on Monday the 19th at 9:30 a.m., we are going back to the Art Commission for the second hearing, which we hope is a final hearing. Okay. So to talk about the activities that we're referring to, has anybody here been to any of the activities or concerts we have held at the site? Oh, great. So we thought one of the things, we noticed that the parcel is quiet, peaceful, it doesn't get huge traffic, and we wanted to have the reasons for people to linger and to provide intimate, friendly, diverse kind of music. So we did a concert series from May to October. We skipped over extremely hot months, and there are 4 concerts that we held every month. And then we had a heritage celebration called Annyeong, Korean Quinn Village, and we had our young students dance and perform music, and there were games for all ages. And this was part of the citywide celebration by the Office of Immigrant Affairs office in June as part of the Immigrant Heritage Month. And there is a picture of us cleaning the already very clean parcel in May to participate in the block cleaning. And so those are some of I think I captured all the activities that we have done just in last year. And additionally, this should give you an idea of what kind of activities and the kind of things that we want to inspire. We commissioned 2 Philadelphia poets, Michelle Meyer and Yolanda Wisher, to create a poetry video. So it's sort of like a music video, except the poetry is being read and performed. And this was to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the very first testimony that really paved the way forward for the other survivors. And that's available online on YouTube. And some of the on and off site future programming that we have in mind are really similar to what we're doing. Continue to schedule produce diverse cultural events, film screening, which may not be appropriate for the site, and music and dance performances, and resources and information tables as necessary. And this will be all with the small scale and the residential nature of the plaza in mind. So that it would be small and intimate, and it would be mostly unamplified, like the case, most of the music concerts we had. And as you know, there is no electricity at the site, which we hope to change with the plaza. So that should make the assembly preparation a little bit easier. But we also learned from one of the events where we had unexpected number of performers show up. So that we were struggling to sort of maintain our composure. So we definitely learned by that process. And we really hope to hear from you the kind of programs you think will be really appropriate and something that has been missing, that would be a great addition to the neighborhood. And of note, beyond Quinn Village, we also realize how important this is. As I mentioned, this history touches over 21 countries. And many of that diaspora, the descendants of that history, live in Philadelphia. We're all Philadelphians. So it's really important that we get community engagement and that we are working in partnership with those members that we want to connect to. Because the whole idea behind this is that we want people who wouldn't normally meet each other, to understand, and to actually like each other genuinely. So some of the community members and organizations we have talked with and consulted with are from Asian Americans United, an umbrella organization of Asian American communities in Philadelphia, Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corporation, the Filipino Executive Council of Greater Philadelphia, and Japanese American Citizens League. And moving forward, and I should point out that 2 of the pictures on the side, left and the right, are from the June 13th event at the site. And there's so many wonderful photos. I didn't want you to not see because a lot of you weren't able to make it to the concerts. And as you can see, these concerts that we're talking about, the monthly series, they were sparsely attended, but that was really good for us too, so that we can take the time to meet the neighbors, take the time to talk to them, and the performers really enjoy that as well. So you're seeing Filipino string ensemble here on the upper left. In the middle, singer from Chile, actually a neighbor resident, South Philly resident, and people getting information from this picture. This picture here, we actually recruited a committee member who was just sitting down to listen to the music. And to the bottom left is the student Korean percussion group. And I would like to talk about the design, and I'm sure many of you are very curious about this, and this is what really is important to the neighborhoods as well. So the design element, the chief criteria was for us to create a space that is apt for contemplation and that can house the Statue of Peace in a very harmonious way. And we also, along the way, wanted to improve the everyday functionality of the site so that we can provide for the visitors and residents alike contemplative experience. So at the bottom, you're seeing, we're going to show you more renderings. I love the renderings. And this image is a really sort of the ground level image of what the size of the landscaping, the statue, and the space is, to give you a little bit of idea of the relationship of these items to each other. So I mentioned the February town hall, and some of the questions that we have been fielding before, during, and after that town hall is, how would the current landscaping be impacted? And I think some might have heard from some people that the bench is going away, the trees are going away. They're not going away, we're actually doubling down. We're creating more, we're planting more trees, more plants, and we're increasing the seating area by a lot, and a very comfortable seating area. No offense to the current bench, but have you sat on it before? It's a little hard, and it accommodates maybe 3-4 people. And we're addressing some of the existing, the lacking elements. Limited seating, as I said, and lack of lighting. There's no electricity whatsoever. And it's a significant portion of our budget in the plaza to bring on the electricity, to install it in the site so that we can have good lighting at the spot. And also, there's a little bit of landscaping that we want to balance out by, when we're bringing in something new, we also want to make sure that it's in alignment with the rest of the existing landscaping. And importantly, another question is, who will care for the plaza? So I actually updated this, I left this part, but what you're seeing, if you can see this, it is our committee who's going to be responsible for the maintenance of grounds, landscaping, and the conservation of the statue. We're going to do this in consultation and coordination with ILMAC, Interstate Land Management Corporation. If you know them already, they're the people who manage all the parcels up and down Front Street from Vine to Snyder. So in some instances, there may be an overlap, and we want to make sure that we do this with their guidance and coordination. And the city requires us, the committee, to enter into an agreement of a public art donation, which this project really is. We're donating this piece of art to the city and to this site. So they want us to have enough funds to pay for all the maintenance that I have talked about. And then they will also require for us to have another set of endowment fund as double security. And let me show you the beautiful renderings. So now, It's not as impressive as it is on my on the laptop, but so as you can see, the first thing that you're hit with is endless greenage. So we're adding the total. There will be 8 trees. That's the plan so far, and right now on this block, there's no sidewalk trees whatsoever. So we are adding a tree pit to make sure that we are adding the greenage and shades, and also to create sort of this beautiful entrance. And as the viewers enter into the space, they're instantly greeted by trees and landscaping that tells them what to expect. And to the left here, you're seeing the low ground plantings, and you can see the highlighted, the color enhanced vegetation and plantation is what's going to be new. The one that you're seeing in the back, which is a little bit faint, it looks like it's a misty afternoon or tropical, but it just is the muted photo of the existing landscaping that's behind the rail. And am I in the right place? Yes. And you can see that there will be a plaque as a standalone plaque. I don't know if any of you remember from earlier image, there are many statues of peace that has a plaque on the ground at the base, but we wanted to not make people crane their neck to read the message, the inscription. So we are planning on a plaque that's standing. And as you can see, the seating that I have mentioned will be extended quite a bit. So there will be a concrete wall that comes up, and then the wooden material is planned for the seating area. And we're going to add, I'm going to show you a closer image, but armrest will be added so that we are setting this up for proper usage, and to make sure that we do not invite a stay that may be a little too long. I think you know what I'm saying. On the right, you'll see one of the 2 light fixtures. So this will be powered by the new electricity line that we're bringing in. And the next image, you're seeing a closer image of the statue in the center, and the seating area. And in the back, the way it is now is really wide open, but it's a very shallow space. So it's hard to find a corner that's central enough, that's set up enough to really have a little bit of performances. So we have carved out a little bit of space in the back where you're seeing the imposed images of image of musicians, people who actually played last year at the site. So this area we have designed to allow for small gatherings and performances. And this is the view from, if you're standing in the plaza, looking out to the west side of the front street, seeing the houses across the street. And you'll see another fixture here, the lighting fixture. And I think the next image is a little example of the palette of plants and colors that you see throughout the season at the site. This was done by our landscape architect, so I'm not going to tell you what the flowers and the plants are, but these are the criteria was for it to be low maintenance, and for it to be colorful, and to have a points of intrigue and interest throughout the seasons. And this is a little close-up view of some of the materials and the fixtures that we hope to use. I should mention that our design is not set in stone. It has been redesigned many times with your input, with the city's various departments' input, and we want to show these items along the way so you get an idea of what the space would look like. So on the upper left, there's the type of a plaque that we would like to use to place the inscription of the statue and the plaza. And here at the bottom left is the exposed aggregate paving that we have in mind for the space itself. And here is the type of wooden bench that we're thinking about for the space actually 3 examples with the armrests included. And here are the lighting fixtures that we have identified. And you'll see in the next slide, but what we also want to do is discreetly light up the footpath and the railing behind the space so that it's very gently lit, which to contribute to the safety and without impeding the privacy of the residents across the street. And on the right bottom here, you're going to close-up images of the statue so that you're seeing that we are putting this in, considering this as the whole palette of colors that we're working with. And at night, this lit up, this is what the plaza would look like. So as I mentioned, the railing behind the plaza, it's just a simple black rail. Then we're not replacing that. We're going to, however, take care of it and paint over it to really make it nice and shiny. And we're going to place the lighting underneath it to gently demarcate the space and to kind of frame the space. And as you can see, the light fixtures on the right and the left are gently illuminating the space underneath it. And the benches will be lit up along the way too. And there will be lighting placed to illuminate the Statue of Peace in the center. And this was done by light designer that we have contracted with. So the company did an analysis and assessment, and this is the scheme that they have come up with for us. And those of you wondering, I mentioned the plaque and the inscription that goes in that describes the space and the artwork that we're talking about. So I'm going to give you a moment to read this. No need for me to repeat it for you, but this is a draft inscription that we have come up with so far. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yes. Sorry. I have the privilege of looking at a laptop screen. Okay. Statue of Peace. This statue commemorates hundreds of thousands of girls and women from Asia, Oceania, and Europe who fell victim to the systemic sexual slavery by the Japanese Imperial Army from 1931 to 1945. Starting in 1991, the survivors broke the cycle of shame and silence by testifying and urged the world to protect the future generations of women by facing the past and to build lasting peace. Philadelphia, and below it reads, Philadelphia Peace Plaza Committee, month and year of the actual completion. Sculpture, Seokhyung Kim and Unsung Kim. Plaza design, 10 landscape architects. And that sums up my presentation so far. Here's an information how to reach us. We try to be everywhere, although we're just a bunch of volunteers who have been engaged since 2016 for some of us. And we can be found at these handles on Facebook, Instagram, and the last one in green is our GoFundMe site. And although I'm here, we're always going to be talking to you and QVNA. Never hesitate to talk to us directly. We'd love to hear from you, and we want to be available. I'm going to open it up for questions.
Yeah. Should we turn the lights on? Yeah.
Thanks for not falling asleep. Yes.
Hi, I'm Ed Mazurek. We've corresponded by email.
Oh, yes. Nice to meet you in person.
Yes, likewise.
That would be great, because we want to make sure we have it up for the recording.
Yes.
On the web.
Fantastic. I hope he's getting my good side. Not that I have one, really. Anyway, I live in Queen Village on Columbus Boulevard, and I'm a civil rights lawyer. I've been retained by the Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia because the JAGP strongly opposes this project. This issue of comfort women has been a politically divisive issue between Japan and Korea for decades. Many Numerous Japanese prime ministers have repeatedly apologized for the terrible things that the Japanese Imperial Army did. They paid millions of dollars in reparations, but there is a group in Korea that wants to perpetuate this political issue. So they have these comfort women statues, and that door hanger that you may have seen has links to, for example, a video link of protesters right in front of the statue, slitting the throat of Japanese Prime Minister Abe in protest with a 9-inch machete. Now, Ms. Cho indicated that this statue is not intended to criticize the current Japanese government or Japanese people. It's the Japanese Imperial Army. Well, the Japanese Imperial Army hasn't been in existence since 1945. So it's clear that this statue and these protests demonstrated are directed at Japan and Japanese people. Bring that statue here, it's directed against Japanese Americans. And Japanese Americans don't deserve to be embarrassed or vilified for something that they had nothing to do with by having a statue like this here. In fact, this is one of the bitter ironies to this. Japanese Americans who fought in World War II are among the most highly decorated soldiers in our nation's history for valor. Japanese Americans fought and died in Korea for the freedom that South Korea now enjoys, for which they are being humiliated by this statue. It's just not fair. Ms. Cho indicated that there was support among Queen Village for the statue back in 2001 when she first presented it to the Art Commission. Well, I don't think that that's accurate. In fact, not a single... It's not accurate. Oh, not a single one of you heard this presentation when she asked. And, you know, I have a letter here from Rabbi Goldman of the B'nai Abraham Shabbat Temple in Queen Village, and he says... Yeah, I'm not going to... Understood. Well, yeah, I've asked...
This is everybody's meeting.
I've asked a number of times to be able to make a presentation to you, but I'm glad to have the opportunity finally. Even Rabbi Goldman recognized that there was no community outreach. I spoke with people I know from Queen Village, including the VFW Post. Their jaws dropped. They had no clue that this was going on, and when they did find out about it, they were appalled. The fact is that this political dispute has absolutely nothing to do with Queen Village, and there's a law on the city's books. It's called Directive 67 that says that in order to build a historic monument in Philadelphia on city-owned property, it has to be about people or events that made a significant contribution to the site in which the statue is going to be built. Comfort Women had nothing to do with Queen Village, not with Philadelphia, not with the United States. So that's why my client and I personally oppose this. I know that there are others that I see in the room who have told me about their frustration with this. So I just wanted to give you that bit of historical backdrop and present my client's position in terms of why it would oppose this statue. It has nothing to do with Queen Village. It seems that Queen Village shouldn't have to bear the disruption. Yes, of course.
Your client here tonight?
It is. I have Pat Daly, who's the vice president of the JAGP. Pat's here. And I'm representing the JAGP, so we're both here representing the JAGP. So, yes, my pleasure.
Yes. Would it be okay to ask you to come up? Or I can bring to you? You can say your name too.
My name is Betty Kaplan, and my husband and I have lived in Queen Village since the late 70s. I came to this meeting expecting to oppose the statue. And I think you've given a beautiful presentation. The point is not that the Japanese people are supposed to be subjugated. The point is that women in this city are being subjugated. The sexual slavery of young women in this city is a fact. And what this statue, I know this for sure because my daughter is a public defender and she concentrates specifically on that. What this statue to me is not merely these particular people. It is about how women have been subjugated throughout history. And we should recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have a quick question to interject. Thank you both. So this door hanger, so is it by the JGP then, Ed?
I'm sorry?
Were they placed by JGP?
Yes.
Okay.
The JAGP is responsible for having them made, and then the manager of the VFW volunteered to pass them around.
Okay.
Were they identified on the form that was connected with it? Say this again?
So who are Friends of Serenity Park?
If we're going to be transparent.
It's a group of volunteers in the Philadelphia area.
Can you, I saw that form and it didn't readily take credit or acknowledge how people could get in touch with them. It seemed like data collection, which I did warn a lot of people about because it didn't, Friends of Serenity Park tells us nothing because it's not listed anywhere. There's no information site, and it was a little creepy because it seemed like data collection. It didn't say, this is who we are, these are the members, this is how you can reach us, where we make that abundantly clear in all of our publications.
The website also makes it abundantly clear that the data is shared to no one.
And the purpose of the door hanger was to provide Queen Village people with the background and facts concerning this statute. Not about the
Facts are
committee.
debatable, but you have definitely said enough. And I just want to make sure I can give anybody else a chance to speak who would like to come up and share their feelings. Yes, you were about to.
I'm the commander of the VFW post down in front in Queen. The issue of women trafficking is a very serious issue, and I oppose it. However, our monument, which is right across from it, and all of our war monuments down a little way from there, they don't characterize any of the service of the war. They just say that these people were Americans that died in service to their country. By putting the Imperial Japanese Army on there, you're singling them out. The Korean Army, the Korean government, and the US government were also being sued because they perpetuated prostitution at the same time during the Korean
I
War.
don't think we know of any country that has not enabled.
So why are you singling out the Japanese?
Oh, I'm happy to answer that. We're not, so I think one thing to make really clear, I happen to have a Korean American face, but once again, this is about people from over 21 countries. And this is, I think this is very telling. The focus is not on the perpetrators. The focus is on the
Why
victims.
mention the name on all of the statues?
I'm not a revisionist. I don't deny history.
I'm not denying history either, but why are you singling them out?
Why would I
when
hide
you
them?
claim every other government is also responsible?
Who else is responsible for the Japanese Imperial Army's sexual slavery system?
Well, who's responsible for it going on during the Korean War and the Vietnam War?
Oh,
To
the
the
I
lawyer's,
mean,
to the
we're
lawyer's
talking-
point, if there were apologies made, this has been acknowledged as fact, correct?
Yes.
If there are yes or no? If there were
So-
apologies made, this has been acknowledged as fact that this did happen. We're not, because we're not here, honestly, we're not here to debate history. We're here to give you a presentation. So should you want, because nothing's changing at this meeting tonight, People are getting information. So if you want to attend the Art Commission meeting on Monday morning, by all means do that. Absolutely. But we're not turning this to a history debate. We are talking about.
Well, it's important to know the history, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
history is important, but I would like to
It's all
give
part
you,
of this
I'd like
discussion,
to finish my answer to you
Okay.
since you asked the
Okay.
question. So, to go back to the point, are you aware of thousands of artworks in Philadelphia that tells of positive and negative history that describes the ills and the bliss of humanity?
Right.
Do you think once, at any point, one person said, oh geez, let me look at the Holocaust memorials and go threaten the Germans and German diaspora?
Yes, some people have.
But do you think that that's a ground enough to oppose free expression and for victims to be remembered?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about free expression, why is Christopher Columbus sitting in a box?
I cannot answer that.
I mean, if we want to talk about free expression, then let's acknowledge the whole problem. Let's not only acknowledge part of the problem.
Yeah, I think we go back to that. The whole problem
Yeah.
is that even retelling what had happened 80 years ago is this difficult. So imagine how difficult it is for victims and sexually trafficked people and raped people from all over the countries. And Ukraine is another one that is so fresh in our mind. If we cannot even talk about what happened 80 years ago, how do we talk about what's going on right now? How do we pay attention to what's going on right now? So to your point, I understand that this might feel like a singling out. We're telling a history that is not told, and that is very vehemently opposed wherever we go. So we're also saying then to you, who has rights to memory? Who has rights to remember, and who has rights to monuments?
Okay, well, our World War II does not blame the Imperial Japanese Army. We
The
acknowledge.
United States, sir, bombed Hiroshima.
Yes, I know that.
Yes.
Well,
We ended the
yeah,
war
yeah,
with
we ended
tragic,
the war.
tragic bombing.
right.
So what I'm
But-
saying is, this is not a blame count. This is not a blame game. The whole point
So
is,
what you're doing
can we
is
have the
blaming
space?
them. That's what my whole point is. You look at our monument, we're not blaming anybody that we fought against. And we're not blaming if we were wrong or people felt we were wrong in any of the wars we were in. We're just acknowledging our dead.
So,
And here, if
who are
you
the
want
wars
to
fought
acknowledge
for?
this problem, why not make it a world problem? Now you're only making it about this one specific group. And the Korean government has never acknowledged the fact that they had a hand in it. And when they
Oh.
went over to Vietnam, they had a hand in it there too.
I think it goes without saying that no governments are perfect. And the whole point of this, I think you're really, let me bring the focus back to this history,
Right.
which is that no girls and women would be taken if Korea and other countries were sovereign. And we are all implicit. This is a national shame that we allowed our people to be subjugated and taken. And what we're talking about is, let's talk about it. No one country, as you said, and we have talked about this during the town hall in February too, and some of you might have been there. Someone brought up the rapes by Korean army of Vietnamese women during the Vietnam War. There's no reason to deny it. And we want to be able to talk about all of this. Sir, as an Asian American, do you understand how taboo it is for our community to talk about this? We are
Yeah.
trying to change it.
Yeah, well, I had to deal with it in Afghanistan, trying to get the women to come out to talk about being
Yes.
abused.
What we're talking about
And-
is the divisions that we're talking about, the concerns for division. We're talking about divisions that already exist. They're very deeply seated. We cannot get beyond this and see each other as people. I do, and I want to encourage other people to do that. But even remembering and talking about the history elicits this sort of response, then where do we go to talk about this? And are we not Philadelphians, and are we not Americans?
Well, you're making this a Korean problem by listing the Japanese imperial. Yes, you are.
I don't think you're hearing me.
Yeah, well, you're not hearing me.
Korea
either.
is not 21 countries, sir.
Yes, but you only single out one moment in the history of this
Which
going
moment?
on. during 1941 to 45. You're only singling out one moment. Each of our memorials are not singling out a moment except the death of American soldiers.
Well, that's a different kind of memorial.
So should we, so what am I hearing is, so should we have a catch-all memorial, or should we all,
Yes.
as private, ordinary citizens, do what we can to contribute to the memories that we are close to? And isn't this city a mosaic of all those memories? Why don't we get to do that?
It is, but
I memorize all women that are in this predicament of all countries.
Oh, absolutely. This,
So why
we
just
cite the
that?
history, this
Yeah.
is the motivation, this is the
So-
inspiration and motivation.
So, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but why can't it be about all women who were abused in the situation of all wars, not just this? You understand what I'm saying? All women,
going
like
to-
all women.
I'm
all
going to
women.
actually stop speaking and let other people speak. Yes, yeah, could you take the mic, please?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And quite honestly, if you pause just to contemplate it, these kind of discussions could take place at a place like this, where people
Oh, no, but
are
that is
talking. Just a
That's
thought,
related.
just a thought.
Do we teach this in school? Is this in the public school curriculum?
That's been
Lisa,
challenged as well.
do you want to
And
introduce
this is
yourself?
important to enable that.
Guys, I'm sorry. I just want to speak for a minute. My name's Lisa Mell. I'm the chair of the Friends of Mary Alonzo Park. I do a lot of work. I've lived here for 35. I used to live in an apartment on Front Street that's no longer there, you know, like that sort of thing. It's been like, and Lucy and I knew each other when our dogs were little. I've lived here a long time, and I've been to a lot of meetings, and I understand that everybody has a right to their opinion, and everybody needs to be heard. One of the things that people don't hear is the silence of people that can't speak. And so I came to this just as someone else mentioned, thinking, oh my God, they might take trees out. Oh my God, you know, I'm the tree person in the park. I'm the person that handles all the trees, you know. So I'm like, I just want to make sure that this plaza is not going to somehow detract, somehow make this a thoroughfare, so all the things that you don't want a park to be in a neighborhood as wonderful as ours. So when I saw the design, I was actually quite floored. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was well handled. But I think the most important thing about this is not who is on the plaque, but who is sitting in the chair. You're going to be invited to come and sit in this chair. So I'm sitting in a chair next to a woman from a completely different country who knows what's happened to her. We don't know what's happened to her unless there's some sort of information given. Now, it's absolutely true that we need if they're going to take away the Christopher Columbus statue, there should be 25 women from all different countries on our pier. But we don't have that, and that's another project that someone could take on. I feel that I don't see anybody here that would doubt that that it's a very powerful statement to sit next to someone you don't know and contemplate what might have happened to them and be grateful for where you are and remember what happened to your grandparents. That this is I think the point of this particular installation. And I did have a little bit of feeling because we do events in the park and it's a small space. So I was trying to how much traffic is that going to bring? That was another issue for me. We all know how hard it is to park, right? So we just wanted that to be something that's taken into account. Things like that. I feel that I understand, having done shiatsu for over 12 years and studied the Japanese culture deeply, I have a great respect for them and a great respect for how they heal and how many thousands of years the Asian culture has been doing healing. I kind of feel that this is about healing, not about insulting. Because if it was insulting, there'd be a statue of a man there that also looked Asian. It's a statue of a woman who couldn't speak when she needed to speak. So I just want us all to remember, you know, I'm an American. I'm like 6 different nationalities. But I want us all to remember that there are many women that just haven't had a chance to speak. And I totally agree with you. But I also feel that if it means that we have to speak differently about it, maybe that's what we need to talk about. But the statue and the idea for the plaza, it sounds like if the plaque wasn't there, and that people would be, oh, well, who is this person? There has to be some sort of definition for her so you can relate to her, but not too much. And I think that that might be the thing that we have to talk about a little bit more. But I think that this is a beautiful idea, and I think that it's not something to be belittled or shot down. And I think that there's a lot of very well-informed people, men and women in here, who understand that it's been thousands of years that women have been sitting in this chair. Thousands. So I just think it's important to tell the story. I thank you all for listening to me, and I thank you all for your comments.
Next, but I know you were waiting to speak. Next. And then we'll come to you, ma'am. If you could state your name.
Yes, of course. My name is Don Ackerman. I was on the board many years ago, not during any of this, and I've lived in Queen Village, I think, since 1980. I just wanted to say a few things, because I think there's some confusion here about how you honor things and what, the purpose of these things. You can have different kinds of procedures of honoring, like, for example, what you're talking about, how you honor fallen heroes of this country. But if you're going to make any sense of our history and the history of the world, you need to talk about specific events. Otherwise, it doesn't necessarily make any sense. So, for example, we have further down the road a monument to the Irish famine. Is somebody saying we shouldn't have that? Instead, we should have honoring all the famines of the world? Then it's almost, then it's meaningless. You're not talking about that specific event. There's a Holocaust monument up on the Parkway. Are you saying that we should never, what we really should talk about are all the genocides that have happened in the world, and we're never going to talk about that genocide? That would cover it up. That would mean it was meaningless, and it never, there's no attempt to look at that particular event. What I think is happening here, this issue of comfort women, and I don't think people maybe understand, this was one of the most horrendous mass rapes of women that ever occurred that we know about. Okay, there's the famous rape of Nanking, for example, which happened in China. Comfort, this whole comfort women issue is a major issue throughout Asia because of what happened. And I think, Philadelphia is full of these kinds of monuments. It's not unusual for us to have a monument about a specific event. I think this makes sense, and it makes sense particularly at this time because of the certain amount of anti-Asian feeling that's happened. I don't think, to say that the Japanese army is responsible for this is just telling a fact of history. It is not an attack against the Japanese people, just like the Holocaust monument is not an attack to future generations of Germans, but it is talking about mass murder. Here we're talking about mass rape, okay? And I think it's an important issue to discuss and to have something available. And here we have the opportunity to have this wonderful space where people can quietly discuss these kinds of issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will come back. I promised her next, and then can I come to you? Excellent.
Hi there, I'm Carol Drazen, and I'm a fairly recent resident in Queen Village. And I'm not going to talk about the statue at all. Actually, I think it's quite meaningful and beautiful. But I did watch the original Zoom meeting last year where this presentation was given, and I did not like the design of the plaza then, and I don't like it now. I think there's too much hardscaping. I think that adding the electrification may be good, but it's going to bring amplification. For some concerts, it's going to be almost impossible, or events, to limit that. We do have an issue of parking in the area. I would be much more in favor of a smaller, more intimate space with benches that might be remotely comfortable to sit on. I recognize the use of the iron bars to avoid people sleeping on them, but they could be more comfortable. Actually, the one that's there now is rather elegant and comfortable. And I would like to see the statue there, but in a much smaller scale of space, without as much brand new planting, which will, yes, someday provide trees and foliage, but in the meantime, take away a rather charming area of green and quiet. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a response to that just real quick. In the interest of giving facts, what was it? So we have consulted with the neighborhood a few times about the design, and the design, of course, we have not yet entered the design development yet. And as you can imagine, we are getting a lot of input from very different parties with different interests. So we have been gathering that, and we really hope to reflect that in the design so far. And we appreciate all your reaction to this, because this is, I think, the first time you are seeing the latest design. On the question of trees and current landscaping, so one thing we will bring up on Monday hearing, so that you're not surprised, is that the condition of the current landscaping is in various stages. So some of the trees, they have been pruned in a way that they're so now in a poor to fair condition. And so we were really mindful. The landscape architect is actually a specialist in native plants and trees. So we're mindful to make sure that we're not taking away something that's thriving and appropriate for the space, and that we're going to, whatever we bring in is value added, and that it's going to be suitable for the space and set up in a way that it's going to thrive and actually be part of the neighborhood's landscape for a long time to come. But
Where did the design that was in the newspaper come from? Was that the original?
it was from our first art commission hearing, which was February 21.
Do you want me to bring the microphone to you? I'm talking, ma'am. Do you want me to bring the microphone to you? Because
I have a question.
on the recording, if you don't speak in the microphone, it's going to be like
I just have a question.
garbling. I don't. Would you just meet me up halfway? Thank you.
I just have a question. Is it true that this proposal was denied in so many cities, like 5 cities already before you came to Philadelphia? Like they refused to even consider it because they were worried about. What prevents people, since it's so controversial, what prevents people from coming down and protesting in that area?
Let me answer that question.
Yeah, I would like to know the answer to that.
So it is true that some of the cities said no. We're not in touch with all of them. I don't think. I think the latest is Aurora, Colorado. Aurora, Colorado in the U.S. And from what I recall, it was because of the opposition and the kind of noise that it was making. So let's talk about controversy. I think what we're sensing here and what we have sensed, I should preface it by saying that we're in touch with a global network of statues of peace in the world. So some of the countries that we have mentioned, we're in communication with them, and we're learning from each other, and we're talking to each other, and they have prepared us for this experience. When you make a lot of noise, when you call something controversial, it becomes controversial. And I can say that those cities were very surprised by very strong opposition that they were receiving. If you make something so inconvenient, I think it can go away. And that's my answer to that. I think the tactic by the opposition, people who opposed it, was to scare people into thinking that some sort of a battleground was coming to them and that this is a really contested issue.
But you can't guarantee that this won't become a battleground. Because when people protest, it's people from outside the area. I'm not talking about the people.
So I can tell you, but you have to. So let me answer that question. So I mentioned the 17 other sites in the world, right? They have not reported one incident of violence or harassment of any individual as a result of the statue. I mean, I cannot guarantee that anybody's going to be alive 7 years from now, but the whole point is that I can give you examples of other sites that have not had the protest in the images that were shared on the door hanger. These are very inflammatory, extreme images that are not taken from any of the sites that are where the statue is, except for the one on the bottom. Actually, you should know that this is actively protest site in the middle of Seoul, Korea. It's a huge metropolitan city of millions of people, and this area is actually meant for demonstration and protest, and it's big enough to accommodate people. And the people who are for and against these statues are actively demonstrating. This is the only site where I know where we have seen this sort of traffic and interest.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that this is a neighborhood.
Yes.
We don't need outsiders coming in and protesting. Like you said, well, that space was bigger. I'll grant you, maybe it was. But that doesn't stop these protests. They don't care if it's small or big or whatever. I've been in this neighborhood. I was born and raised in this neighborhood. I'm here 72 years. I mean, and I just don't understand why we need that in this area, in the neighborhood.
What do you think they will protest?
Well, you said yourself that there's controversy about
So I'm asking you, but I'm telling you that none of the sites that we have talked about had that issue. And
Atlanta moved theirs out of the city and into the suburbs.
which one?
I've got the article for you.
What would they protest?
That's what I want. So I'm asking you, what did you hear that they're protesting?
even with those door things, everybody in the neighborhood didn't get it. I found out about it through a friend of mine. She asked me about it, and I didn't know what she was talking about. And then I didn't know about this meeting either, until I went to a meeting regarding something else at St. Philip's Rectory. That's how I found out about this meeting. So, if everybody's not alerted about these meetings, and I understand everybody said, oh, well, you're not on our email address. Well, everybody doesn't want to give their email out. So why didn't Queens Village put signs up, put things on a poster, put flyers in people's doors, do it for everything else?
Oh, we did. Oh, but so let me start by saying that starting in 2017, so once again, as a person who doesn't live here 24/7, or not, as a person who's not at your doorstep every day, we're here because we want to take as many opportunities as possible to meet you. I know that one meeting is not going to take care of it. There's about 50 of you here, and this is not the last time we're going to come back. And this is not the first time we're here. So we're asking you to keep inviting us to talk to you so we can tell you, and we can catch you at every moment.
So on this point, I remember a controversial statue up on Kelly Drive. I think it was Leif Erikson. And I remember there was a big controversy about white supremacists coming down. So I rode my bike up there just to see what was going on. And they did. There were probably about 200 white supremacists, wherever they came from, I don't know. They came down from up on the hill, came down, marched down to their Leif Erikson statue, and did what they did. There were police there, there was an opposing group, there was some violence, I think. This is about 10 to 12 years ago. So that's my concern. This kind of stuff can happen. And that's, I think, what this woman's concerned about as well. Thank you.
This happened in Seoul, Korea 3 days ago. On September 11th, there was a fight in front of that statue in Seoul, Korea. They broke it up at 2 a.m. I'm just trying to explain that even in Korea, this is very controversial. I have pictures of the statues if I could share them with you.
Yes, please do.
My name is Patrick Daly. I'm at the Friends of Serenity Park. And we're not trying to change anyone's, the statue's a great idea. We have ideas for a statue ourselves. We're just trying to get this neighborhood and Philadelphia to really understand, because we don't think Philadelphia does understand what these statues mean to the rest of the world outside Philadelphia. This was in a little town called New York City. New York City would not allow this statue to be put within the confines of New York City, so they marched it down the street. It's in the suburbs in Fort Lee, New Jersey. Fort Lee has been multiple sessions of Japanese being harassed by the Korean people who live there. That's fine.
Could you, I'm very curious, we answered this question at the town hall too.
Mm-hmm.
We have not received any follow-up on the documented incidents of harassment.
We have letters from the people who we see, and we sent them to the Art Commission. I don't know if they've read them, but we have documented letters from people.
Could you share them with us too?
Absolutely. This is Glendale, California, where one of these statues does exist. This is outside in the suburbs, because it was not allowed to be put in the city itself, in the larger metropolis. You can see this is something going on there.
Yeah, something going on, but what do the signs say? We can't read the signs from back there.
Let's read it.
Threat can't silence us. Stop assault on women, Mr. Abe. Memorial stays in Glendale, period. Abe, you must apologize to the comfort women.
And he did personally.
7 Japanese prime ministers have apologized.
It sounds like they were counter-protesters.
Yeah, they were in favor
They were in favor of the statue.
Yes, they are.
Okay, all right.
This is Washington, D.C. And again, this was not allowed to be erected within the confines of Washington, D.C., so it's in Virginia. A lady from this...
There are people that are saying that we would like it to be in a place.
Yeah, these are the supporters.
So if we allow it to be here in Philadelphia, then they're not going to come and protest it. That's in Philadelphia.
This is what you could expect in Queens
You're
Village.
missing the point.
So Village and Queens Village are going to come and say, hey, they're protesting Japan and Japanese people at this site. Except they're protesting against Japan and Prime Minister Abe.
This is Berlin, Germany. This statue was erected on a permit of 1 year. When the Berlin government saw, this is a park not unlike Rittenhouse Square. When the Berlin government realized what a disruptive place it had become because of protests of people supporting these statues, they tried to have it removed. This is the result of the police showing up to remove it. Everyone with their back to this photo is a reporter. Okay. And of course, this is in Seoul, Korea. All supporters of the statue. So we just want Queens Village to understand they're not just going to put this statue up and leave. There was a woman from Virginia that runs these statues, and she was on the town hall meeting that we had. Unasked, she volunteered. The Korean people, the buses that come here now to see this statue, they're already talking about the Philadelphia statue. You'll have plenty of visitors coming there.
How can, with this, I appreciate it.
Is that an exact quote? It is. It's recorded on that slide.
That's someone's opinion.
It's someone's opinion. I mean, exactly. These are excellent emotional touch points. And you're absolutely right. But for anyone to have a protest in Philadelphia, they have to get a permit. And if anything happens or they don't deem them necessary to have a permit, But there are protests all over the city in varying degrees. So the bottom line is, this is very good information for everybody to have, to be able to give your feedback to the Art Commission, which is going to have the final say about what happens next. But there is nothing that's not fair. These plans do not denote inciting or excitement to excite political unrest. This has been described in all of the documentation that has been going on for 5 years, that this is supposed to be a place for contemplation, expanding the green space. And I was a little confused by your upset with the park, because it definitely, it seems like an improvement for now, and with the city doing so little to support pocket parks and everything that falls on our neighbors like Lisa Mel, if we have a group that wants to come in and also beautify the park, it's a win. But I really want to get away from, you can put your posters down. We saw them, and I appreciate, we've seen them. We've seen them, sir, thank you so much.
One last thing then, what the Japanese Association has suggested is, why don't we come up with a third-party neutral statue? Let's commission a local Philadelphia sculptor to sculpt something for all women of violence. Why not that? And list on that.
That's exactly what I said.
Absolutely, there's nothing stopping you.
Right.
There's nothing
So
stopping you.
why this statue?
Thank you very much.
And we can keep asking this question around and around and around.
I would like to give the rest, some of, it's nearly 8. Actually, Pat, if you could really put that down, I would like to finish what I'm saying. And Eleanor was interrupted as well.
We're asking for the third time nicely. Can you please put that down so we can continue our community meeting?
I mean, we got the screen up. There's 2 of us. We were trying to, we were trying to get some attention. That's all. So quickly, City of Philadelphia, during the town hall in February, in multiple ways, they have answered that any of you, those who would like to remember other parts of history, please go ahead and submit an application. You understand, out of all the people, I think, getting through the city to get approval for anything takes ages. I worked for the city for nearly 10 years. This is an arduous process. And the city wants to make sure that you're serious about it, that you're going to steward it, that you're going to take care of it, and then it's going to be meaningful for the community. So they said, go ahead, please. You being interested in erecting something else is not a reason that this project cannot go through. And city has clearly stated that if there are groups who are interested, please submit an application. Just as a warning, we started in 2017. So commit yourselves.
I have a question, Eleanor.
Can I hear from people who haven't spoken yet? Do you want to come up? Yeah, sure.
Hi everyone, I'm Danny Doyle. I live on the corner of 3rd and Queen. Is this working? Maybe it's not. Okay, first of all, this particular rendition is a contemplative. There's nothing strong or in your face or hostile about this. This is an invitation for people to reflect, to think. There's nothing angry about this sculpture. Secondly, history has specifics. And we need specifics in order to see their potential connection to today. So I think that I didn't come in favor of the statue or against the statue. I'm delightfully pleased. First of all, Queen Village is a kind of an intimate space. It's not huge. And the scale of this statue kind of doesn't invite protesters. It invites people who are pedestrians, who are walking, who are looking at the area, and then it just kind of raises, wow, what does this mean? And that's artwork. Artwork is meant to evoke from us something that we didn't know. So I am very much in favor of this. And I just think some of us, I don't know why there's the anger that I've experienced here tonight among some presenters, but there's no need for anger. We're neighbors. Obviously art strikes us all differently, But I would like to appeal to those who think, you know, this could be a welcome addition to Queen Village.
This isn't about anger about this particular statue. I just feel as though if it's going to be a statue of a woman who's been sex slaved, whatever, I think it should pertain to all women. And we all can sit and reflect about all of our women who've been in this situation, not just, and I don't have a problem with, you know, you trying to get your point out there and get it known. I understand that, but what about all of us? All of us. No, so why can't this statue represent all women, not just one particular woman?
I think everybody's invited.
That's all
to
I'm
do
saying.
that, exactly.
So, well, why can't we have a monument or this little plaque that says of and specify all the women, not just one particular, just all of us.
So that's something.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me speak.
Absolutely,
Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. I want to let you speak, but I do think it's been heard tonight that there are two very distinctive sides to the situation. The belief that there should be a more generic, broad-based monument for sex trafficking throughout the millennia, and the other one is that there is real anchoring and point of reference with an historical connection, not minimizing anything else that's happened, but using this as a point to jump off. You've all been eloquent speakers, and I appreciate that being put in. I want to give. Did you still want to speak? Yes.
I guess I'll follow up by saying, I think that statue that I spoke about wound up getting pushed into the river. I don't know if it's ever been put back.
I don't know. I don't know about that. And I'm going to, ma'am, and then I'll come to you, and then you, sir.
I don't know a strategy to make sure that the words that are on the plaque bring forth the contemplation about the universality of the problem. And maybe there's some kind of statement that can be added to the plaque that references how widespread the problem is then continuing to the present day. Whether there's a QR code that leads you to a website that explains or gives thought. That's all. Thank you.
Cannot cram in all the information in one place, but there is a project called Museums Without Walls, and it's a virtual program that allows people to actually have a QR code, or when they arrive, have a GPS. When they arrive at a space, then they can actually look it up online for more information. So that inscription is not final, and we're also looking for more ways to make sure that we present full information and for people to look up various points of interest.
And I'm going to take I'll take you first, and then sir, you after. I'm sorry.
I'm real quick. I've been living here for 45 years, but it doesn't matter. I don't oppose the statue. I oppose the location. I think we better up in Center City, maybe near building the Citrus building, maybe they can put it right there. Or have on Penn's Landing. You
It's not real yet.
You
The
already have
76ers
1,000
building.
buses going there all the time. You will get better exposure up there than here.
Or a fish shop.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that it seems, although I haven't seen it very closely and the light is not great, but
for public art, it looks like it's pretty good. It looks like a pretty nice statue. And that is yeah, it's important. And it's nice to have statues. I got lots.
Thank you.
Quickly on the location, I mean, we've really looked up and down. You can imagine the 5-year discussion that happened even before I entered any of this was going on. Where should we go? So to that point, we've picked a small space to precisely avoid big Congress, big assembly. And so in the last year and a half where we have gone public, there has not been a single protest or an unfortunate event. We want to keep it that way, and we're going to be involved. And the only thing we can say is if we keep mentioning the protest, it almost sounds like there is a one coming, that's being guaranteed. So I want to distinguish clearly between what has actually happened and what one says will happen. You know, should it not be a self-fulfilling prophecy?
And I do have to add that just from the plans that we saw tonight, the addition of how many street trees? How many street trees are going in on curb, next to the curb? 3, 4? 3. So that's a good amount of shield.
That was sort of the idea to frame the space and give it some separation.
In 10 years, there will be a shield.
Well, hopefully there's some, I'm sure.
On Columbus Boulevard, in front of the Coast Guard station, there were a whole row of mature trees. They cut them all down so they could put in small trees. It's okay, it looks nice now, and it will be shady in 10 years.
I cannot answer to that, but I can only hope that our landscape architects or whoever is working on it is not to bring your itty-bitty seedlings to contend with. But that's not for me to answer.
Trees this high as opposed to trees that are 50 feet high.
Oh, I understand.
Isn't that the beauty of contracting? Instead of contracting with the city, contracting with...
Yeah, and also not to mention that I, as an expert, do not know, but I think bigger is not always better, especially for small-scale space like that. So I'm not going to say which is better for the space, but we have hired the experts exactly for that reason, so that we are bringing an addition that's actually beneficial. Yeah.
Sir?
I don't need a microphone.
I just want to be, when this recording, all I want to say when this recording comes out, if your audio is inaudible and you're not in it, know that it's because we couldn't pick you up.
The people here, that's the people I want to hear. I have a concern, it's logistics. You can come to Front Street either to Christian, Washington Avenue, Catholic, no, Queens, Kenilworth. And traffic, as you already mentioned earlier today, is very complicated over here. So if I have parking, how is the traffic going? How's it going to be allocated for people to come? Because some people may walk. We can walk because we're in the neighborhood. But people are going to come from the outside, regardless of the political, wherever banner they come from, they got to get over here. So how is the city looking at that logistical traffic coming and going? For you to get out of front, you got to go up Kenilworth.
I can't get out of Queen Village to save my life with all the streets that are closed down now, so I hear you.
So for me, that would be very important because we get a lot of little kids running around here now. This village has grown. My kids are already grown up.
You're right, because some of the other work that Queen Village does is trying to monitor and negotiate zoning. So we've got a lot of aside from this, we've got 4 huge projects coming in. Like the numbers will grow.
Add to it because I agree with the principle. Okay, I don't have anything to say about the design of that. It's just how I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to come in.
Is the city, are you doing is a traffic study required for this?
No, because precisely because of the size of the parcel. The reason, once again, that we're also the reason we're drawn to this little pocket park was because it was a quiet little place. And as I mentioned, there is 10 of us in the committee. Some of us have actually, some of our, all of us are otherwise occupied, otherwise employed, meaning this is not our full-time job. And we did not create this big lofty project for buses to show up and to have it be a tourist attraction. This was to be embedded within the neighborhood as a small pocket park. So once again, I live in Bushtown. I think we share the pain when it comes to parking. When it's difficult to park, if it's a small little humble place, it simply does not attract the same number of people that you think it would on the Parkway or Center City. So the city did not have to issue any study yet, and they do not anticipate it either. And in the past year and a half where we've held events, we have not caused a parking issue yet. And going forward, I did mention that the June event, June 13th event, we ended up having a lot more performers than we anticipated. So we're like, holy moly, we gotta scale it back, and we gotta really know and understand what kind of event we have. So that was a really good telling moment. And since then, we've held two or three more events since then. And the same mistake or miscalculation has not happened. So my answer to that is that this is intended to be embedded within this, and it does. If there's no parking, people are not going to come. They're clearly going to be deterred from coming in and parking and hanging out. And in the last year and a half, we haven't seen that sort of a pattern either. No, I avoid those places. Well,
I understand what you say. Notice that I stay out of politics, economics, and all that. All I want is to assure that when I want to get out of my house, I get out. And today, as you say, is a
as a follow-up, the reason I talked about our small committee is because this is not our full-time task, and we don't anticipate planning that many events or activities. We're excited to offer something monthly so that we can bring free music to the neighborhood, but we're not anticipating intense programming, and input like this is going to be really crucial in knowing what we can handle and what the space deserves.
Yeah, you know, I want to go back to Leaf Harrison. I'm pretty sure they didn't advertise, come over here. They just knew the statue was there. How they found out, Mickey Mouse told them.
Well, look what they did to Rizzo's statue as well. How that was always vandalized, that was always a point of contention until it was finally removed.
Well, I really,
Examples here.
Yes.
Not everybody, but certain people are concerned about it.
Absolutely, and this is the beginning.
Statues that are controversial, and now it seems as though some people in this audience seem to think that this is a controversial statue that's being placed. So it's kind of a contradiction here.
And this is what I wanted to make clear, that's not going. The controversiality or any other aspects aren't decided here tonight. This was purely informational, so you can continue the engagement process with the city and let them know. This is why QVNA does what it does, and I'm really sorry that you didn't know about any of the other meetings. It is a challenge. If you don't want to give your email, then you can definitely check on the website. We always have our weekly newsletter, so you can see zoning meetings, community meetings, any other events, any events that they have will be there, so you'll know way ahead of time and know what to expect. It's all about being able to share information, and that's what you have all been incredibly eloquent and passionate. And I love the fact that we got turnout, because I did get nervous. Is anyone going to come? We're still in the pandemic, but I'm sure, hopefully, we're nearing some sort of end. But I really appreciate you all coming and taking the time out of your evening to learn about what's going on in your neighborhood. So I hope to see you again. Thank you. And thank you to Shinjoo Cho.